All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. It looks like most of the people are here. If there's a couple people trickle in, that's fine. So I want to thank you all for joining us for our first chapter Congress call 2018. I'm super excited to see a lot of faces on my screen. I hope you guys are too. So we'll go ahead and kind of go around the room and everyone can kind of introduce themselves. Let us know if you've done chapter Congress before, because that's kind of helpful to know if you have some background. We'll be kind of deep diving into what chapter Congress is and kind of what we're planning on doing to change chapter Congress a little more valuable to the chapters and to national as well, so you get a little more insight into that. So I guess I'll go ahead and start. I am Brad Fisher. I am from the Milwaukee chapter and I am the National Chapter Support Fellow. So I'm just a resource for you guys if you have questions, need access to information. Carlos has been blowing up my email this afternoon for various items. So I'm here to help you guys out and connect you to whatever it is that you need, whether it's a resource from National or from another chapter. And I also selected curling with my friend Anna from Milwaukee as my Olympic sport. Who wants to go next?
Hey, thanks so much, Bradley, for getting us started. I'm Melissa Spaz. I am part of the YNPN National Board. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm later down on the agenda. And I'm really excited for this particular chapter Congress call. I, in part of my board service, chair the Network Engagement Committee of YNPN National. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. I see that Jeff has joined us, and so I'm really excited to see him here as well, because this is a transitional call in some ways as we introduce some new staff structure and the transition of chapter Congress to leadership of the regional leads. Hi, Jeff.
Hey.
Jeff, we just jumped right in with some introductions. And I think it is helpful for everybody to just say who they are and where they're coming from. If you are able to come into the video call, I think that's particularly helpful today as we get acquainted with who's who. So I'm just going to pass to Jeff, and then if everybody will pass to somebody else, that makes it easy.
All right, cool. Thank you, Melissa. Can everyone hear me? Yes? All right, great. So I'm Jeff Key. I am a chapter leader with YNPN New Jersey, and also have been working with National on the Network Engagement Associate role for the past year or so. Before that, I was also helping out with Nation Builder transition and integration. So it's been a great introduction and meeting a lot of other chapter leaders and being involved with the planning of the conference and chapter Congress. I think, let's see, I listed skeleton as my favorite Olympic sport. I did not know that much about it before I saw it on like NBC Sports, maybe at like 2 a.m. the other day. And I thought that luge was absolutely insane, but skeleton is pretty much the same thing, except you go flying down the track face first. So I'm like horrified and amazed by watching it at the same time. There's a way for me to try it maybe in a slightly less intense version of that. I might go ahead and do that, but I literally can't believe that people are taking their lives in their hands, even if it is to win a gold medal. So I will go ahead and pass it over to, maybe it'll help if we go down the list in order. So if I take a look to Anna from Greater Milwaukee.
Anna, I think you're on mute still. No?
All right, so maybe we'll loop back at the very end if we can get the mic issues fixed there. So I will skip down and pass it along to Carlos.
Hi, good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. So my name is Carlos Trejo. I'm with YNPN Chicago, currently serving as a board member and also on the agenda farther down the line as one of the new regional leads. I did not make the connection to Winter Olympics, so I chose a summer sport and I chose trampoline because apparently that is a thing, along with speed walking, if anyone's interested in knowing that particular fact. But yeah, trampoline all the way. And I guess next on the list is Rebecca.
Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Can you hear me? Good. Hi, I'm Rebecca Buffington. I'm a former chapter leader of the St. Louis chapter, and I've just transitioned into one of the new regional leads, and I'm also down here later on the agenda. I did figure skating as well as pole vaulting because I feel like both summer and winter Olympics. I mean, come on. And then, sorry, that was a bad. Bradley already went, so it looks like Kate Stanton.
Hi, this is Kate Stanton from YNPN Atlanta. I was on chapter Congress last year, attended the calls. And I chose ice hockey because ice hockey needs more love, particularly women's ice hockey. And next up is James.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm James Rector. I'm with YNPN Little Rock. I serve as the board chair. I participated in some of the calls last year, the Congress calls, and I chose curling because it makes absolutely no sense to me, so why not? And next on the list, looks like Elena.
How about now? Okay. Sorry about that. I am Elena Dagg. I am with YNPN Detroit. I am the vice chair of our chapter here. And I chose luge for a similar reason as Jeff, so that I can go sliding downhill quickly. And I am going to pass it on. I would have been passing to Jeff, so I'm going to pass to Erica.
Hi everyone, I'm Erica Richardson. I'm the chair of YNPN Orlando, and this is my first chapter Congress meeting. I chose figure skating just because I think it's beautiful and graceful. And I'm going to turn it over next to Marcus.
Hi friends, I'm Marcus Cunningham. I am the board chair for YNPN Dallas. I have been on most of the chapter Congress calls for the last half of last year. And my sport is curling because curling is life. It's handball because we Americans could apparently build a team and dominate, but we never do. So I want to be part of that team.
Is there anyone else that's on the call that didn't go?
Yeah, me. This is Kimberly from YNPN San Diego.
Okay, go ahead.
I am the board chair. I'm newly the board chair this year, and so this is my first Congress call. And in terms, I don't really watch the Olympics, unfortunately, but I'm going to go with bobsleigh because I like cool running.
I also wasn't on the list. My name is Dan Frankenfeld. I'm from YNPN Twin Cities. And I don't actually have the list. I got an email about a half hour ago that was like, hey, aren't you supposed to do this? And I was like, yes, I am. I didn't know about it until right now. So I'm a chapter leader here, and I think I'd go with figure skating.
I'll jump in there too. I'm Alexa. I'm the new president of the Birmingham chapter, and I'm the chair of our communications committee. I did the chapter Congress calls last year, so I'm looking forward to see how you guys are changing the format and everything. I don't actually have a TV, so I don't know how to watch the Olympics, but I would probably watch figure skating too, just because it's fun and there's music and sometimes people fall, so it's always good to watch.
Hi, this is Anna. Can you hear me this time?
Yep.
Oh, great. I'm Anna from Milwaukee. I am on the board with Brad at the Greater Milwaukee, and I've been on a couple of chapter Congress calls last year.
Hi, my name is David Streeter, and I'm from YNPN Seattle. And my favorite Olympic event is ice hockey. And let's see, this is my second chapter Congress call.
Not sure if I just jumped in here. Can anybody hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, you can?
We can.
Oh, great. My name's Jamie Dukar. This is my first call. I'm from YNPN Pittsburgh. I was just voted as VP in our last meeting. And I didn't get the memo on the Olympic sports, but let's go with curling because somehow I've been watching the most of that. Really excited for this call.
My name is Daniel Genowine. I am a board member at YNPN Phoenix. This is my first chapter Congress meeting, so I'm excited to be on the call with you all and learn more about what chapter Congress is all about and how YNPN Phoenix can be more involved with other chapters and with YNPN National. I think I would choose snowboarding because I enjoy snowboarding myself and enjoy watching that. So.
All right, I think that is everyone. So we can go ahead and get started just with some brief updates from Jeff from YNPN National.
All right, awesome, and welcome to some familiar faces. And for those of you that are on for your first chapter Congress call, we're really happy to have you on board. And I'm sure we'll be sharing some more information about some exciting updates for the format of Chapter Congress a little bit on in the agenda. So just a couple updates from YNPN National, starting off with some information about the upcoming 2018 conference in Indianapolis. So we are getting final details set for registration to go live. So certainly keep an eye out for more information about that. If you go now to the conference website, so conference.ynpn.org, there's already some information up, so you can start to plan your travel, see some information about registration pricing, which we also have listed in the agenda. And there is a bit of a discount for early registration for chapter leaders and general members. If you haven't been to the national conference, I can't recommend it highly enough. This will be my third year attending. I think the first year I went, we were in Portland, and I'd heard a lot of people raving about it. Wasn't quite sure what to expect. I think within like 15 to 30 minutes of arriving, I realized I was definitely in the right place. And it was great to be able to meet a lot of the folks that I'd met through Chapter Congress, and maybe emailed back and forth with in person. It's just a great atmosphere, really, really supportive community for general members or chapter leaders who may want to try and get support for conference registration from their organizations. We have a great justification toolkit that you can use to try and advocate and maybe gently persuade the organization that you work for to cover some of your conference costs. And YNPN National will be providing some more information to all the chapters about travel support and some support that we're able to offer to each of your chapters so that you can arrange for some representatives from your local chapter to come out to the conference. We also, for the second year, I think, really encouraging chapters to think about marketing and really encouraging your general members to come out. The national conference is certainly great for chapter leaders and the leadership and officers for all of your individual local chapters, but it can also be, I think, a really great experience for general members who may not be as connected and aware of YNPN's national scope and the work that we do. So that could be a great way to encourage some members to get more involved and to think about applying to be board members for your local chapters for YNPN. In addition, we're also going to be looking to get workshop proposals from chapter leaders. So the first part of the national conference, first day or two, is the Leaders Institute. So the programming is solely focused around offering workshops and interaction for chapter leaders from across the network. And those workshops are focused on skills, best practices on how to run your local YNPN chapter more effectively. So chapters that have expertise in areas like programming or marketing or communications or board culture are able to have their chapter leaders present and share some of their techniques, some of their best practices with other chapters in the network. And it really makes everyone's chapter better, and you get some great tips and advice for new programs, new initiatives that your chapter may want to put into place moving forward. So it's a great opportunity for peer learning. It's also a really good professional development experience for chapter leaders who may be looking to get conference presentation experience, or to have that as something that they can list on their resume moving forward, having been a presenter at a national conference. So certainly keep an eye out for that coming soon. We definitely want to get your ideas and your input. So if your chapter is excelling in any particular area, or you want to start to get the word out early to chapter leaders from your local chapter who might be interested in presenting a workshop for the conference, definitely let them know, and we'll be releasing that information shortly. Kind of connected to that, we'll have chapter leaders submitting workshop proposals. We also have a need for volunteers to evaluate and select workshops to be presented at the conference. So once all of those proposals are sent in, we also have chapter leaders who volunteer to review those proposal submissions, select workshops to be featured. It helps to have chapter leaders making that decision because they are also the audience for those workshops at the national conference. So even if you have folks who might not want to present a workshop, they can certainly volunteer and get a nice sneak preview of some of the workshops that might be featured at the national conference and help make those selections. So beyond the conference, just a few reminders for some information that hopefully all of your chapters have received and have either completed or are working on completing for YNPN National. I think mid-December, we sent out links for a chapter leader survey. And so that can go to any board members for your local chapter. It allows us to get feedback about the type of professional development, support, and resources that chapter leaders are looking for from YNPN National. So the more people who respond to that survey and give us feedback, the more information that we have about what you're looking for in terms of conference programming, program exchange trainings, and just additional support that your chapter is looking for from YNPN National. So I believe we have a pretty good response to that survey, but if you could, please share that link with new board members that may have joined in the last month and a half. I know a lot of chapters have done recruitment, or send out the link as a reminder to your board members to fill out. It's pretty short, but it gives us some really valuable feedback as we plan for our agenda this year. The second survey is a chapter directory survey. So I believe at this point we have over half the chapters who have replied. And this survey is going to be used to put together a comprehensive directory of chapters for the leaders site. So a lot of times at YNPN National, we may get outreach from a particular chapter who's looking to start a new type of program, or looking for advice about how to better use Nation Builder, or to connect with a chapter who's really good at marketing. So this chapter directory survey is giving us some basic information about all the chapters in terms of member size, how many events they hold each month. And we hope to have that directory up on the leader site so that chapters can find out what other chapters in the network are doing, who they might want to reach out to for advice about a particular area, or a membership plan, or chapters that might be a similar size to them for outreach about best practices and just connecting to collaborate on different projects. So if your chapter hasn't, you still have some time. You can fill out that survey, giving us basic updated information about your chapter so we can put together that full chapter directory for everyone to have access to. Next point is just about the network investment fee and the Nation Builder data sync. So as part of the affiliation agreement, each chapter has a network investment fee that is tied to either your budget, expected budget for the year, or the amount of money or funds that you raised in the previous year. We actually ask you to estimate that as part of one of the questions in the chapter directory survey. And that gives us an idea for YNPN National about what we can expect in terms of revenue from that, to see where chapters are in terms of their budget for the year, and then for us to do some administrative work to get all of that finalized, and then to send out invoices to each of the chapters for their network investment fee for the year. So we're hoping to get that done and sent out by March. So it is really important that chapters are able to fill out that chapter directory survey. And if you have any questions on that front, definitely feel free to reach out to YNPN National, and we can answer those questions, talk through any concerns, and make sure you get squared away for the year. Last, but certainly not least, is an upcoming call for the YNPN EDI, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. That's coming up on Wednesday. And I did not put the date in there, so I'm gonna have to take a peek at the calendar really quickly. Wednesday, February 28th. So we'll make sure that we send out information and the link to register for that. But that committee is meeting monthly to discuss projects, initiatives moving forward, to provide training to the chapters around equity, diversity, and inclusion, and then to continue on with some ongoing conversations within the network about that core value of YNPN. So I know that they're always welcome to have new members join and participate in those discussions. And Robert Nelson, one of the board members, is the head of that committee, and they've been doing really, really important work. So any of your chapter leaders who might be interested in taking a larger part in that committee's work or being involved in those discussions should definitely get involved, can reach out to us, but participate in that upcoming call to find out what their priorities are for the year, and to get plugged into some of the projects that they have been working on. So with that, I will pass it along to Melissa for some really exciting announcements about the introduction of the regional leads, and then to talk a little bit about the work of the Network Engagement Committee for this year.
Great, thank you, Jeff. You are right to say that I received a plum assignment for this evening's agenda. I'm really excited and really excited to be able to introduce the regional leads to you. But I first want to just say a word about the Network Engagement Committee of YNPN National's board, in part because the regional leads are key members of that committee. In in the design of our committee structure and the way in which Chapter Congress relates to YNPN national and chapters. One of the tasks that we have had as a committee, and this is something that is in draft and not finalized, is to name a charter for our committee and set goals for 2018. And so I wanted to share that with you this evening, following on from our board retreat in November. The purpose, goals, and objectives of the Network Engagement Committee of YNPN are to link the YNPN National Board and staff with chapters in a meaningful way. The basic responsibilities are around resourcing Chapter Congress from the national level, introducing and maintaining relationships between YNPN's national board and staff and chapters. And that is all in context of being a learning organization and really being intentional about being a network organization. I think this is where I start to sound like a broken record, but I think the most remarkable thing about the Young Nonprofit Professionals Network is found in the network. It's the connections between chapters and YNPN National. It's the fact that a young nonprofit professional who goes to school in Boston and then to graduate school in Indiana and then finds a job in Texas can stay connected to one network of organizations for their professional development, for their contribution to the future of this sector. So when we think about the skills that are needed for the Network Engagement Committee, we have a particular way of talking about this. This is like YNPN speak that I inherited and am really grateful to pass on. This idea of super friends, people who are deeply connected, deeply invested in YNPN's mission, reflective of engaged chapter leadership, willing to help us build partnership with influencers, people who have particular expertise or skills. And so this is where our regional leads and our fellows are incredibly important contributors to the work of the Network Engagement Committee of the YNPN National Board. So all of that to say, I want to introduce you to the people who make up the Network Engagement Committee. There are two current members of the YNPN National Board who sit on this committee, myself and Robert Nelson, who is the chair of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee of the YNPN National Board. Jamie Smith, Jeff Key, Bradley Fisher also participate in the activity of the Network Engagement Committee. And in addition to that, I anticipate that one of our three new, at least I hope, one of our three new YNPN National Board members will be also joining this committee. And then we have our four outstanding regional leads. And I'm confident that you're going to hear more from them even this evening. But I just want to say a word of welcome and a brief bit of orientation. If you have not found it, please link through on the Google Doc to our agenda, and you will see that on the leaders site, bios of our regional leads are available. There's also a region map, because sometimes the way that our chapters have developed, we wanted to have balanced groups, and so sometimes it's not entirely obvious which region an individual chapter might fall into. So all of that to say, I want to introduce you to Elena, who is the regional lead for the Midwest region. Her home chapter is YNPN Detroit. And Elena has been a trailblazer as the first and for some time only regional lead across the last calendar year. And so she brings a great deal of wisdom and perspective to this work and has already demonstrated her contributions and leadership in this work as well. I want to introduce you also to Lee, who is the regional lead in the Northeast. Lee's home chapter is YNPN Boston, an excellent city, hub of the universe. Lee's work is in advocacy and policy in Boston. And I think that he brings a really unique perspective by merit of having lived and worked in different parts of this country as well. So welcome, Lee. Excited to have you on board. For the Southeast, our regional lead is Carlos. Carlos has been an active contributor to YNPN's network work overall, including through some of our processes and practices that allowed us to arrive at the place where we have regional leads for Chapter Congress. Carlos's home chapter is YNPN Chicago. He probably has been involved with YNPN as long as, or longer than many of the people in this call and on this group. So I say that not to out you, Carlos, but to say there's some wisdom and experience that this person brings. So really excited to know that Carlos will contribute in this way. I also have to say that in reading Carlos's bio, I learned a new word, vexillology. So if ever you're going to do trivia and you need to answer questions about flags, Carlos is your man. Thank you. And then last, but certainly not least, for the West region, Rebecca Buffington, home chapter, YNPN St. Louis. Very excited to have Rebecca coming on board. Also very experienced leader with YNPN and in the nonprofit sector, working in arts, and now doing some really interesting work around events related to the World Chess Hall of Fame. So I know I have questions about that for you, Rebecca. Really excited to have your leadership and contributions. I just want to celebrate the giftedness of the volunteers who make this work happen. And really express my appreciation to you. This is for many individuals, not just second shift volunteer work. This is an additional third shift because we know that you have significant leadership responsibilities with your own chapters. We know that you are involved in other things in your own community. And so to have service at this national level is really an important contribution. I am not going to say any more, but I want to say how excited I am to hear now from our regional leads about what's to come.
Hey, Elena, I think you have that first section, sorry.
Yep. Sorry, I was taking myself off of mute there. So we wanted to take a moment for some of you who are new to Chapter Congress, and then for some who are kind of reconnecting into Chapter Congress to really just review what this space is to be used for, why it exists, and our general goals. So in the past, it's really been a forum that's intended to receive updates from YNPN National, thinking about the affiliate chapter structure and how we have so many incredible chapters across the country, but the need to stay connected at a national level as well. But also for those chapters, for each of us, right, to provide feedback to national and then to ask questions about things that are happening. We'd really like, our ultimate goal is for Chapter Congress to become sort of an advisory body to the staff and to the board of YNPN National. So that would allow both feedback going both ways, some opportunities to share things that are going well for us in our chapter leadership and in our programming, things that we can need support with, or that we need support with, as well as things that national can do to better support coming the other direction. And so as we undergo this transition, and I know Carlos is going to talk about this a little bit more, but undergo this transition of leadership directly to the regional leads. We will be the point of contact for each of those respective regions that Melissa introduced.
Yeah, so in this new model of Chapter Congress, we are going to be shifting leadership of Chapter Congress to the regional leads. So the YNPN network has grown pretty significantly and impressively over the last few years. That growth is what inspired, I think, the affiliation model, which we're now under, and that now gives us as a network an opportunity to have some really impressive collective impact. So chapters across the country are doing some great work, and we really want Chapter Congress to be a space where we can come together to collaborate on some of the wider issues that affect us as chapters and that affect our members in the nonprofit sector. In order for us to move forward as a network and develop these initiatives together, chapters need a forum in which we can talk about these things, and we need chapter leaders to continue to step up and play an active role in our network. And I just want to point out, Rebecca and I were privately chatting earlier, and we were so happy to see so many folks involved in tonight's call, and that's something that we would love to continue to see in future Chapter Congress calls. That being said, who better than current and former chapter leaders who are intimately aware with the work that's being done at the chapter level to help lead this new Chapter Congress. And we want to continue to engage chapter leaders in ways that will engage them to continue to participate, but to also serve as future regional leads for the network as well. And just lastly, we regional leads are here as an additional resource. We're a large network and there's a lot of resources available to us, but sometimes narrowing those down or finding the right person to talk to can be challenging. So as regional leads, we are here to serve as a point person who can help chapters and direct them in the right direction. On top of that, we're here to listen and to take what we hear chapters and chapter leaders say to help guide the work that needs to be done as a network.
Hi, guys. Yeah, like Carlos and both Melissa said, it is really exciting to see 21 people on a chapter Congress call. I remember the days when there was 3 of us, 3 or 4 people. So this is like a huge difference from within such a short time. So it's really great to have you all here and to be here with you. And Carlos and Elena both already really touched on some of the things that I was going to talk about. Thanks, guys. No, but for this year, just to reiterate what you all can expect from Chapter Congress is just more clearly defined goals and objectives of the group so that we can ensure that it's developed into this decision-making body of chapter leaders that will really be able to work with national closely with both the board and the national staff to ensure that all of your voices are heard and that we're working together and to move YNPN national as well as each of our chapters forward. And we want to just continue, as Carlos said, we're here as regional leads to listen and to be a point of contact for you when you're having questions of who you need to connect with. We're happy to be there. Obviously, national is a great resource, but we're all really busy. So we hope that we can, as regional leads, just be an additional support system to the national staff so we can ensure that you all are still maintaining a strong connection with national, you're connecting with each other, you're sharing best practices and insights, and you're able to, talk about different things that are, that you're dealing with in each of your different chapters and how you can work together. Because this is really, it's a really cool thing to be able to see all of your faces and to have this many people on a call. So I'm really excited for this year. I think 2018 is going to be a great year for YNPN. So.
Hi, everybody. So this is a good point where we can take questions and next steps and really look at action items that we can look at for this year. I see a question already from David from Seattle asking, is President Trump's proposed budget President Trump's proposed budget ends the public service loan forgiveness program. for borrowers after 2019. Is this a public policy that YNPN has a position on, could develop a position and advocacy strategy around? And this would have major impact on the future of the nonprofit workforce.
I guess to speak to that a little bit, I think this is a great place to like ask these questions and to put those kinds of concerns kind of into, on paper somewhere so that the regional leads and the network engagement committee and the staff at YNPN National can kind of look at, what are the chapters seeing, what are our members seeing that we could, potentially advocate for, or speak on behalf of our members for. So it's something that we could look at, I guess, is where we're going with that. Melissa?
I would just add to that, that Chapter Congress and the Network Engagement Committee stand at a position of connection with some of the other capacities of YNPN National, particularly our National Voice Committee of the YNPN National Board. So YNPN has at times made very clear, taken very clear positions and made very clear statements. And this is part of the responsibility of the national voice function of YNPN National. But it doesn't work if we don't have effective mechanisms of communicating within and with the network. So I'm really grateful for this space to be a venue for surfacing some of those kinds of questions. On the other hand, there are also some things that have emerged as topics or concerns that have also run through the think tank process. And so that's something, and Carlos, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you might be able to say a bit about what your experience with that has been as a mechanism of discussion and shared network decision-making for proposing things that the network might take up.
Yes, I do have experience with some of the think tanks, particularly the network decision-making think tank, which I helped co-chair back during the affiliation process. And it's actually a system that's built into the affiliation agreement. I believe it's Appendix D, where we talk about network decision making. We recognize that there are issues that are big that we're not going to solve during one call, and that really require a lot of input from a lot of folks. Everyone's got a stake in what we're doing here. So think tanks were developed as an opportunity for individuals to sort of self-select and say, like, this is something that I want to be a part of in terms of coming up with a solution, or just even developing a process for how we're going to address this as an organization. And as I mentioned in the affiliation agreement, we've set up that opportunity for when these sort of larger issues come up. We have a way in which we can bring a group of people together who will meet regularly. The size of the group will depend on the number of folks that have, again, sort of self-selected into it. Sort of recognizing that not everyone may be interested in the topic, and recognizing the different capacities that different chapters have and that National has as well. But really to try to draft something up that then gets presented to the rest of the network. And Chapter Congress would be the sort of ideal place where that would happen, where we could then present this think tank document that sort of documents, that was redundant, that demonstrates what this group has worked on and what their suggested position is, or their next action steps should be for us as a network. So Chapter Congress happens every other month. It's an hour-long call. Again, it's a limited amount of time for us to be able to address some of these larger critical issues. But think tanks are sort of subcommittees that occur separately, where we really have the space and the time to be able to address some of these, again, larger issues.
Did you guys have any other questions or any other things that you wanted to discuss right now while we have a few extra minutes?
Yeah, I have a question if that's cool. This is Dan from YNPN Twin Cities.
Sure.
At our last board meeting, we had spent a little bit of time trying to brainstorm different ways to expand our financial model. I think historically it's just been like member donations. And I think that there are probably some YNPNs that like charge a membership fee. And I think that's like a larger question and maybe even like conversation or debate. But we were wondering if this would be like a good opportunity to ask everybody on the phone if there's any like revenue generating models that y'all use that work fairly well, or if there's different fundraisers that you use that you've seen a lot of success or anything like that.
And what I can do is I can kind of do some research into the feedback that's come back from the surveys and find out what chapters have fundraising or revenue model as something that they feel that they're strong at. And I can look at that as a program exchange topic. If that's something that your chapter would be interested in attending, I'd be happy to set that up.
Cool.
And just Bradley and Dan and FYI, Carlos and I actually presented on this topic at the Portland National Conference, and I did a call, I think an exchange call a year before that. But there are definitely a lot of chapters, including YNPN St. Louis, that we've come to some different fundraising models in addition to a membership model. So.
Thanks, Bradley and Rebecca. Those are both really helpful resources. I just wanted to say that, and I'm really appreciative of the question, and I want to affirm that part of being a learning network means that we're going to be continually sharing these kinds of resources and revisiting conversations. The gift of the Young Nonprofit Professionals Network is that we are always bringing new people into the work and sharing new practices. It can be a challenge, but it also is a wonderful opportunity and a gift. And I'm really grateful for the way in which we create and hold space to teach one another. So thanks all of you for that.
Melissa, I apologize if I'm putting you on the spot for this, but I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the potential changes staffing-wise at the national level following Tristan's departure. If there's anything you can reveal.
You know, Jeff may actually be in a better position to talk about this than I am. What I do know is that some of this has been shared publicly, and you will all sort of be brought into that. What we're clear about is that we have really excellent leadership in Jamie, and that in some ways having changes to the staffing model, while this is always challenging when we have staff change, means that Jamie's effort can be focused in a new direction, and we can provide her with support with staff who have other kinds of specialization. Jeff, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like from your perspective as well.
All right. Am I off mute? Yes? Okay, good. So yeah, with the staffing transition, I think the discussions we've had, we're kind of taking stock of where we are and then the needs of the national network this year, especially with the transition for things like Chapter Congress. So it going to more of a collaborative model and the regional leads taking a little bit more of a prominent role in that. I know some of the discussion has been around working on ways to incorporate some fundraising work, thinking more, I think, long-term. And this is kind of happening in conjunction with the strategic plan that was discussed last year by the National Board and what the next 3 to 5 years for YNPN look like. Part of that is we're heading, or not heading, now currently in the second year of the affiliation agreement, kind of 1.0. I know another discussion that's going to be taking place with chapters, probably with the chapter Congress calls taking a big role in this, is getting feedback from the chapters about how the affiliation agreement has worked out so far, what's worked well, what can be improved for, I think what's loosely being termed as affiliation agreement 2.0, including kind of the length of time that new updated affiliation agreement is going to be in place. So just thinking back to when I first got involved with YNPN National, they were still having discussions around the first affiliation agreement and thinking of like the chapter operating system and trying to get a lot of this in place to, I think, provide a foundation for YNPN to have some growth moving forward. But then for National to be able to put kind of the resources and staffing in place to support all the chapters as the network continues to grow. I know at this point we're starting to approach close to 50 chapters in the network. And I know that we consistently get new requests for startup chapters from across the country. So I see that number continuing to grow. So I think that the staffing discussion moving forward is tied into all of those pieces. So looking at how the first 2 years have gone under the affiliation agreement, and then looking long-term for YNPN into the future about what that looks like. And then, I think in terms of Jamie providing strong leadership and the discussion with the board, what that needs to look like for the next couple of years for YNPN to continue providing the growth. But I think as some people have brought up with some of the questions, being able to have a really powerful platform to move forward with collective action and doing some really important advocacy work on behalf of all the chapters around important issues.
I just would add, thank you so much for that, Jeff. Carlos, I know that this is significant to you because you're in development as well. And so it is not lost on YNPN National's leadership that we had made a conscious decision to have a full-time fundraiser, and that this means that in some significant regard, Jamie's portfolio shifts toward development and advancement efforts in a significant way. And so that having other staff, Jeff being key among them, to enable her to focus her energy and her skills on that relationship development work and the fundraising work. Having a senior executive leader who is really in a position to think about development and advancement is crucial. And Jamie is really well positioned to do that work.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Richardson. I'm new to this and with the YNPN Orlando chapter. I just heard when we were talking about the YNPN National Strategic Plan, and we're working on our own strategic plan. I was wondering, would it be possible to see that? Is that something chapters can see, or is it more just for national staff? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah. Melissa, do you have an answer to that about the National Strategic Plan?
Sorry, I remuted myself. So the strategic plan is still in process. The short answer is like, yes, it will be something that will be shared. I have not been myself a part of the strategic planning group of the YNPN National Board, and so I'm trying to see if I can put my hands on a timeline for that. I'm not doing that immediately, but I'm sure that I can connect with that group and we can share it out to this group. I can add it into the agenda with some more clarity about when we anticipate the completion of that strategic planning process.
Great. And another quick question, just being new to all this and trying to use the national resources more. Can we talk about the, like, I hear there's a YNPN leaders email, and like when should we use that and like go through this kind of a thing? And how do we get on like that list for emails?
Sure. So I think there's a couple different things that exist, and folks kind of get them confused because there are 3 things. The first thing is the chapter leaders Google group, and that is essentially like a listserv for chapter leaders throughout the whole network. So that a lot of the times is used. Someone is working on a project or something for their chapter, maybe it's an event, and they're like, hey guys, what do you do for this specific instance? And they're looking more for a resource or maybe a best practice. The second thing is the chapter leaders newsletter, and that is tied through your profile on the leader's site. And Jeff does those typically once a month, and that has updates from national. If there's to-do things at the chapter level, like the surveys and things like that, you'll see them in there. And then the third thing is the general member newsletter. And with the sharing of the tags and from your local chapter to national, that is how you're tied into receiving those. So as long as your chapter has set that up and you're a member or tagged as a member at the chapter level, you'll get those. What I can do to make sure that you guys are have access to those things and are able to sign up and get what you need, I will put the links in the agenda so that you can sign up. And if you're also not sure or feel like maybe you were signed up in the past and stopped getting stuff for a certain reason, you can reach out to me directly. I have access to both the Google group and to the chapter leaders site admin, like control panel. So I can look at your individual profiles and find out like what's going on if there's issues.
Thank you, Jamie.
Was there any other questions? Nope. All right, so I think we can go ahead and wrap up. It looks like we're right at 8 o'clock. Just the last thing to note, I did include the schedule for the remaining chapter Congress calls through December, as well as a link to the Congress page on the leader site. And I opened that up and I loaded on there. Okay, I opened it and then I closed it, so that's not true. I included links to register so you guys have access to that right away. And then I'll be working with the regional leads to kind of set the agendas. Once those are ready to go, I'll link that. So that page can kind of be your landing page for kind of all things Chapter Congress. And then as, you know, after each call, I'll be downloading and uploading into the leader site the call recording. So if you need to go back for any reason and if there was a specific conversation or something, that'll be accessible to you just through that page as well. I think that's all I have. Jeff or Melissa or my regional lead friends, do you guys have anything else?
Just wanted to say thank you. Really appreciate that. Bradley, you're well disguised as Jamie Smith there, but fooling no one.
You need to have purple hair too.
I have a Judge Judy wig over there from Halloween. Is that like sufficient? I have the robe too and a Bible, so I don't know if that's possible.
Yes. Thanks everybody for such a great call.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.